there is an institution that calls Russian Controlling Institution. And this institution is actually checking all of the news and giving an orders to delete the news that they don't like. Putin has never listened to what people have to say. To be honest, since Zelensky started his presidentship, I never been so proud of being Ukraine as now when he is in charge. If NATO will get involved in this conflict, the truth is that it will be Third World War. Hi, my name is Kate and I am Ukrainian citizen. Currently, our country in a state of war. Russia tried to take over our towns, tried to take over all of our country. War has been going on since 2014. My mother was working in a hospital where they were treating soldiers, Ukrainian soldiers, from Donetsk and Lugansk. Since the day when Russia entered Ukraine, military forces of both countries were fighting with each other. Ukraine was only trying to protect what was ours, because Russia entered our territory. In Crimea, we had no war that caused us death, but we had a war that caused us and cost me my home. I left Crimea in 2014 when Russia and Russian agents entered Crimea and left to Poland to look for a better life. There was nobody I can fight. My father was a military and he has to leave Crimea or stay and be a Russian soldier. And as you know, in military forces, people are usually get an oath that they will serve their country from the day they start until the last day. My father told there once that he already gave an oath to Ukrainian country and he won't become a Russian soldier. I must say that I'm really proud of my parents because my mother were helping soldiers that got injured. My father was military and he was actually fighting Russians near Donetsk and Lugansk, and that cost him a lot. After he came back from this Russian border on Donetsk and Lugansk, he had a stroke and now he's not valid for services. But despite the whole that thing, when Russia started to actively bomb and attack Ukraine on 24th of February, I asked my parents that they would leave. And I've heard the thing that make me really proud of them. They told me that they won't leave because they already ran away from their home once when Russia take over Crimea. And they won't do that again. They won't leave Ukraine. They will fight. Since my mother is nurse, my father is the old military man. He also has a doctor education. He is also can help as a doctor. So they both decided to stay, and despite the fact that this is heartbreaking for me to think about that I cannot do nothing to help them, this is their choice again, and I need to respect that. So let's go through the things that has been going on for now. So in 2014, Crimea was taken by Russia. It was taken, well, from my point of view, it wasn't conflict like military conflict when somebody was fighting, but they come in Crimea, take over the military bases that was in Crimea, made people give up everything that they had inside these military bases. And the truth is that at the same time in 2014 there was basically a revolution in Kiev. We had nobody at authority to rule and to actually provide us with the guidance what to do and wherever, and so Crimea was taken almost without a fight. But Lugansk and Donetsk was taken but with fight, and this fight has been going on since 2014. Russia put the border lines in the entrance to Crimea and out of Lugansk and Donetsk. So they basically took part of Crimea and they basically took part of Ukraine, I mean like near the sea, but the part of Ukraine like Lugansk and Donetsk. Crimea was always kind of a little bit independent because this was, we had two official languages. We had a Russian language as official, so a lot of people were speaking Russian. A lot of people from Russia was living there. So that's why this whole taking of Crimea wasn't that complicated, sadly, but now I can say it without the tears that Crimea was given up. Nobody fight it. There was nothing to fight with. I mean, like, we had no army there. Ukraine had no army there. There was military forces of Russia because Tymoshenko some times ago agreed to allow Russia to have military forces in Crimea. Like, who could ever give a permission for that? Like, imagine like you are from Spain and you are given a permission for, I don't know, United States to have a military forces, military bases in Spain. Would you agree to that? Well, our last premier minister, or I don't know who she was at the time, but Tymoshenko has agreed to that. So that was the reason that, from my point of view, that was the reason why Crimea was so easily taken, because there was a military forces of Russia inside Crimea. There was a lot of Russian citizens with the families. So everybody, like a lot of people, thought of themselves like of citizens of Russia. But the fun thing is that they were actually giving a passport of Russia to everyone who decided to stay in Crimea. My parents left, I left, and we get out of Crimea because we knew that we don't want to be a part of Russia. There was they saying that there was a referendum, but there was like a voting. But the truth is that in this voting, the statistics shows that like 103% of citizens of Crimea took vote. So votes was made by people who weren't living there. So this is a fake voting, like everything in Russia. It's fake voting. Voting for Putin is fake voting. Nobody really voted for Putin. He just said like, I need 80% to be a president again. And they had the statistic, you know, there is no democracy in Russia. But anyway, so Crimea was taken. Donetsk and Lugansk, these areas there, was also taken. And again, Russia put a new border outside of Donetsk in the direction to Ukraine. Ukraine put a border. Ukraine put their military forces because there was more forces in all Ukraine. And Ukraine was trying to take back that all the time from 2014. And of course, there was a little situation, there was little cases, people were dying, our soldiers were fighting there, were dying there, was seriously injured there. And while my mother was working at the hospital that helps those people from this area, she told me that she saw a lot of things, heads like crushed, without legs, people without hands, because he just come to a bomb and it's just blow up. So war was on. World was not just speaking about that enough. And now, what happened next? Since 2014, our military forces started to rebuild. Actually, I think that our military potential really grew during Zelensky in charge. So Zelensky became president. Huge shock to society in all over the world, because somebody who never were a politic become a president. Somebody who has his own business, but his business is more about like television show. He has a comedian show on Ukraine television, and he never thought of being a president. He never was prepared to be a president. But let's look at this from other way. This president now shows more courage and more ideas and do more for country than any other presidents before. He's not Yanukovych, who ran away when this whole Crimea thing started. Yanukovych ran away from our country. Our president at the time ran away. Zelensky today was offered a transfer from USA, and he said that, I'm sorry, I don't need a transfer. What I need is to fight for my country, and what I need is something to fight with. So when somebody offered him this thing, he declined, and that's the thing that made me really proud. To be honest, since Zelensky started his presidentship, I never been so proud of being Ukraine as now when he is in charge. So let's come back to that. So Zelensky come to a fact that he becomes the president. Why everyone was voting for him? Well, I think that everyone just gets so tired of presidents that like saying that they are political, they're politicians and everything. So people was, from one side, people was so desperate for somebody like fresh blood that they decided, well, if that will go bad, if this president will go bad, it won't be worse than it was with presidents before. And he really started to control where the money goes, because before that, all the money that was in budget for country was going into pockets of politicians, but now it goes to military forces. It started to go to military forces to develop a military. And what's important to know that he started to work in direction to become a member of European Union, and he started to work in direction of NATO. So that's the right decision that he made. But unfortunately, yes, those decision now costing us a war, because we started to develop our military forces. We started to develop our relations with countries from European Union. We started to develop our relations with NATO, and that's why Putin is scared. You know, there is a theory that people will do some things because of only love or fear. So I think Putin is afraid. He's not doing that because of love. Our president Zelensky doing all that he can because of love. To his country, to his children, to his wife, who are, by the way, staying in Ukraine in these difficult times. Putin doing that because of fear. Because of fear of losing control, because of fear of losing power, because of fear of the fact that everybody will forget about him. So as I told you, in my opinion, the war has been on since 2014. Besides that, I think that all the activities of our country into cooperation with European Union and into cooperation with NATO has caused us this conflict, and has caused us the fact that Putin decided to attack. And he actually speaks about this freely now, but what happens in February is that on 24th of February, people woke up because they've heard sounds of bomb, and they've heard of sounds of flying ships started to put in rockets into our cities, stores, and all over the huge cities. You can easily find a map of places and cities that were under attack. Unfortunately, Ukraine does not has this thing that will check what is going on in sky. Like, we have this protection. So we had no way to know that they will attack. There was a rumors that they will be attacked. So we maybe didn't know when exactly it will happen, but in general, our military forces was ready to react. The truth is that what our army doing now, it's phenomenal, because our army, during the Zelensky presidentship, we've really created a huge amount of forces. We've trained a lot of people like soldiers, and they know what to do. So on 24th of February, almost all of the cities was attacked. People woke up because they've heard something that was remaining. And that's how it started. From this day, forces of Russia and forces of Belarus has been slowly entering our territory. Currently it's like three directions. The forces are coming from Crimea that Russia take over before. Forces are coming from the Lugansk and Donetsk side, and forces are coming from Belarus, and Russian forces are also going into Kyiv. Because of course this is war, they're trying to get rid of people who is in charge. So of course they're going to the capital. And other things that has been going on, it's important to understand that this wasn't just some random thing that had just happened. They were collecting more and more forces, and everybody knew about that. So that's why I think our military forces were kind of they were prepared. They knew that something eventually will go. The interesting thing is that before 24th, Putin made a few really great interviews where he officially on the record told that he won't attack Ukraine, that he will take his army out of Ukrainian borders, and that this is only testing, this is only military forces training. And well, you can see now how it goes. Ukraine now catched a lot of Russian soldiers. At the beginning, I believed the things that they've said about the fact that they were on this training and they didn't know where they're going. But you know, it's now has been third day since Russia attacked, and I think that this is just something that they use to cover themselves and to save them from dying, because all of them, like one guy, like everyone say the same, like, we were sent for training, we don't know where we are, but sorry, if you're fighting for 3 days, you see where you are, you see flags, you see people, you're attacking people, you don't realize that this is a war, this is not a training anymore. So that's why I don't think that this is fair to say that the people who are fighting from Russia doesn't know what they're doing. At the moment now, I think they all know what they're doing. Either they just doing that because they're too afraid of getting out of this, because they know if they will run away from that, they will be desertive and they will be in Russia, they will probably be killed. So they trying to fight with Ukrainians because they know that if they would come back, they would be just dead. I also prepared few information that, like, lies that Russia is spreading just to justify what they do. So first of all, the things that they say is that Ukraine is governed by a bunch of Nazis who oppress and kill Russian-speaking people. I'm sorry. Well, let's start with the fact that this is not true. Our president is somebody who was recently called a clown because he had this comedian program on television, and now, as I told you, our clown is a hero of Ukraine with all military forces of Ukraine who are defending our country. Another thing is that Ukraine is an American puppet and a direct threat to Russia if it joins NATO. Well, it is a threat to Russia because we've been fighting Russia for 3 days now, and we gave them a good response to what they done to us. We've killed a lot of people, and we've killed people because they entered our country, because they've done something that they should never done. So no matter how this sound, I know that this is painful to think about that, but currently I have no mercy for those people. I love Russian people, but if somebody decide to fight and take over somebody other country, this is not okay. This is not okay to enter, I don't know, Spain and say that it's ours. What would you do if you had listened, like people saying, oh, we've decided to take over Spain because, 200 years ago, it was actually part of other country, let's say Russia. And Russia will come over and say, okay, we will take over Spanish. Who has the right, who give a right to Putin to decide? Why does he has a right to decide to which year we coming back? In 2014, Crimea wasn't part of Russia. So now it's not part of Russia. The most fearing thing that I have is that why does he has a right to decide to which year we coming? Like we taking backs. So that's like, this is crap. This is not right. So another thing, the idea that Ukrainians wants to be a Russia. Okay, let's go back and let's watch through Facebook and let's see how Ukrainian citizens joining the army just to protect its own country. This is the biggest bullshit that I ever heard, that Ukrainians wants to be a part of Russia. Since when? Like, the fact that we still speak Russian language doesn't mean that. The fact that we living in our country, we defending our country, means that we don't want to be a part of Russia. And if somebody wanted to be a part of Russia, he is already in Russia. He is already lives in Russia, because we always wanted and we always could have traveled and moved to Russia. So this is the biggest bullshit that they're saying. Just to remind you, in Russia, so this is like in Soviet Union, you cannot say what you think. You can say only things that government thinks is okay. So in Russia, there's thousands of people that saying like, Russia didn't start a war. Okay, tell that to people who died in usual towns, who died in houses that has been crushed by your army. So when somebody says that, oh no, Russia doesn't start a war, Russia just ending the war that was in Ukraine since always. Okay, war was because of them, because of their country, because of their crazy people in charge. I have a lot of people from Russia in my friends. I have a lot of employees that come from Russia to the company where I work. But let's be honest, Putin has never listened to what people have to say. The fake democracy that was in Russia working very well because people are too afraid of saying something and doing something. I know a lot of people in social media that saying like, okay, I would want to go to protest, to meetings about, stopping this war. But when people goes there, Russian police taking them into, police stations. They do not give them a right to protest inside their own country. And they are trying to make like people to fear going out and saying what they want. And there's a lot of people who lives in this darkness, thinking that everything what Russia does is fine, it's okay. A few days ago, yesterday I think, I've talked to my mother and she told me that Russian soldiers now during this whole thing started to shot in the kindergartens. Few children are dead. Like they just shooting at any thing that they see. I don't know, maybe they wanna hit something else, but they are hitting houses. And thank God there was no children at the moment, but they hit other houses where children were living, and these children are dead. And now it's a full volume war. You might be interested, why doesn't war do anything? Well, it's also easy. Ukraine, since Zelensky started to be a president, Ukraine has tried to become a part of European Union and NATO. That's what I told you before. And Zelensky wanted NATO to take us in. What does that mean to Russia? It means that they won't be able to take over Crimea and they won't be able to take over Donetsk any longer. And if Russia would do anything, would kill anybody in Ukraine, in those borders that I've told you about, in Crimea, in the borders of Crimea, then NATO will have a full right to react. Unfortunately, I'm saying this with a heavy heart, but if NATO will get involved in this conflict, the truth is that it will be Third World War. But the question is, what will Putin do? Let's imagine the worst scenario, that Ukraine won't be able to fight it in fully. What next? Poland, Germany, Spain? Because Putin won't stop until somebody stops him. And the thing is that I think this is time to stop him. He just like Hitler. He does the same thing. He kills people and he's not aware of what he's doing. This person is mentally sick. He kills people saying that nobody kills them. Well, do you want me to show you bodies? Do you want us to show you bodies of your soldiers that you've sent there? Because that's what's going on. More than 3,000 people, citizens of Russia, already died because they were, as they were telling, they were sent to train killing people in Ukraine. But the difference is that Ukraine were defending. We're not shooting at people that just come to visit. We're shooting at people who comes to us with the weapon. We're shouting at people who comes on military, cars, taking our cities. This is something that everybody would do. You're not discussing with those people. There's no time to discuss with them. Fact is that a lot of Russian people doesn't know what they're doing. But how many times do you need to understand that you're killing other people? And this is sad. This is sad what's going on. All the time we hear news. We're sitting on the internet checking what's going on. We watch news. We're trying to speak to people who are in charge. We're trying to write to people who are in charge. And I know that this is sad. This is the biggest conflict in Europe that has been since 1941. That's not conflict. Let's call it what it is. This is war. But if we won't react, if the world won't react, Putin will go then to Europe. He won't stop. Putin will go to Poland, he will go on Spain, Italy, everywhere, because this is a sick man that just wanna have control over everything. Remember that he's old, he has nothing to lose, and he just wanna make a history, become another Hitler or another Lenin or another, I don't know, any other leader in Russia. Okay, so that's taking too long. So let's get back to this lies that Russia is spreading. So the fact that Ukraine wants to be a part of Russia isn't true. We don't seek for safe. We just started to live as a normal country. We started to gain our military potential. We started to gain our forces, and that's why Putin decided to react. He's just afraid of what's going on near Russia. He's afraid that he will have another NATO participant. He's afraid of Ukrainian potential in NATO. That's why he's acting now. Another thing is that Russia is restoring historical justice. Well, let's not even discuss that, because who decides what is just and what is unjust? Ukraine is a sovereign country. We have our borders, we have our loans, we have everything. And why does Putin decide what is right or what is wrong? He's president of other country. If he want to give part of his country to somebody else, okay, fine, let's let him do that. But other president of other countries has no right to be a part of any decisions, to do anything with other countries. So this is whole his ambition to take countries that was in Soviet Union's back. And this is all that he does. Maybe also a few facts. So as I told you, Russia is bombing civilians. That is true. You can see a lot of pictures of houses that have been shredded by bombs. And as I told you, they won't stop in Ukraine. They will go in a deep of Europe. And maybe, just maybe, if we would send some part of soldiers from every country of NATO, some group of soldiers from every country, we will be able to stop Putin. But let's just remember that if Ukraine will be taken, he won't stop. Maybe not now, but in 20 years, he will attack again. He or Russia, somebody who will be in charge, will attack again. And he will attack your children and your grandchildren. So let's just keep that in mind, that maybe there is something that we and our soldiers need to do now in order to prevent any worse things that could happen in future with our children and our families. This is their job, to defend us. And if we won't take care of Russia now, who knows if Russia take care of us at some point in future, and who knows what powers they will have. Let me remind you that Russians do take charge of Chernobyl atom station. If Russia has an access to atom energy there, who knows what they will do. This is something that people need to take care of immediately. We need to take this station back, because I don't know if you've heard, but you know that Russia has been trying to doing research on humans. They're doing research on nuclear things. I'm not strong in words here, but they can use that the worst ways possible. They can do terrible things with that. So we do need to react now. I know that this is terrifying and this is call for a third war, but if we won't take care of Russia now, they will go in the deepest towns of Europe. The last thing that I will tell you is that besides having a really impressive leader in charge, we do have an impressive people in army. We do have an impressive people in our forces. Russia was planning on silently killing and taking care of people silently as fast as it's possible. And they didn't do what they wanted to do. Our people fighting, and with every day we need more and more help from Europe. If it will be, financial help, that's great. There is an official website when you can donate, as many as you can. And that's great. And for your records, our military sources has collected more for this 3 days, more money for this 3 days than they collected in the last year. So this is like impressive. More than 20 millions was donated to our military forces. But let's remember that wars are expensive and they need not only money to operate. We need humanitarian things like clothes and other things. Here in Poland, me and my husband are already part of community that will help Ukrainians that run from Ukraine. I mean, like women and children. But we are close to Ukrainian border. We can help. But people like in Spain, you probably sit and think, what can I do? When first of all, you can donate some money to our forces. We need military help from other countries in order to stop this Russian invasion. We need people and soldiers. We need anything that we can get from all over the world. So I don't know if this is a good interview or bad, but this is what I think and this is what I feel. And I hope that Russians people won't be offended by what I say, because this war is beginning to be a huge conflict of nations that always was close to each other. And I'm really sorry of those children that are fighting this war, because there are boys who has 18 years. This is children. This is not a man, and they were sent because somebody has some stupid idea and they were sent to war. This is not how it works. We won't surrender. We will never surrender, because we already been taking so much. Russia already takes so much from us. Ukraine never stopped to fight for it. And if somebody in Russia thinks that we will, then you're wrong. We won't stop to fight for our country. We won't stop to protect our borders. And I think that anyone would do the same. So I think this is it.